Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, I put out a blog about COVID-19 and the COVID-19 psyops. And I made it very clear that I don't know anything about COVID-19. I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a scientist. I have no idea where this was caused, where or who brought it out, or whether it was natural, or whether it was man-made, or what country it started from, or how dangerous it was, or anything like that. I said I don't know anything about that, but I do know that there's a history of bad people, criminal people that take these things, these events, and they turn them into something else. There's an agenda involved. And so the purpose of the blog was talk about what looked like an unfolding agenda and how this thing was being blown way out of proportion. And I quoted Paul Offit, who is not necessarily our friend in the vaccine-informed community, but he had come out and says, we're really not very good at evaluating risk. He says, we're blowing this way out of proportions. And I had looked at the numbers, and I can use a calculator, and I looked at the numbers, and I thought, yeah, we're blowing this way out of proportion. Paul said it. Others have said it too. So I put that out there as a blog and said, this looks like something else is going on. And I shared that on a local Sitka, Alaska Facebook forum. And I received a whole lot of negative comments about it. So I got a feeling for how people were being affected by the news, and people were very much taken in by the fear, by the hysteria. And as of that date, Sitka had 0 confirmed cases, and now even as of this date, which is April 5th or something like that, it's still 0 confirmed cases, but people were terrified and are terrified, and so some people read my blog and my comments and made a report to the hospital where I work and said that I was sharing these things, and some even said that they were afraid of me, that maybe I wasn't taking this seriously and therefore I would infect other people and make them sick with my presence. So I learned about these things on Thursday when I was called down to the basement, and I stepped into the room and I saw who was there, and I knew immediately that I was there to be fired. And I was. It took about 15 minutes, and they explained that these things had gone on, and that I was expressing personal opinions that went against the policy of the organization, and therefore I was being let go. Interesting about this, the previous day, April 1st, that was Wednesday, I posted another blog on the subject called The Cure, in which I talked about the history of pandemics in a different way. I talked about Nazi Germany, the hysteria, and the propaganda. I talked about that in terms of being a pandemic of delusion that led to very bad outcomes. And I talked about how that spread around the world. And I talked about how sad it is that medical professionals are now locked in a system that is dysfunctional, demoralizing, and where they can't really even talk to their patients about natural means of promoting health, because they're there to sell pharmaceutical products. And if they don't do that, they get their hands slapped. So it's a very sick system, and I caught the brunt of that sickness the next day when I went to work, and I'd been fired.